Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how to make a paradigm shift. If you want to make a significant difference in your life, it's critical that you understand what a paradigm is and how to change your paradigm if the one you're using is not working for you. So what is a paradigm? If you've read Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, in there he talks about a paradigm is the lens that we look through in order to see the world. So it's like a pair of glasses. So you know that if you put on a pair of rose-colored sunglasses, everything looks rosy. If you put on a pair of those yellow glasses, everything looks brighter. If you put on a normal pair of sunglasses, everything looks a little bit darker. Well, have you experienced a situation where you have your glasses on? This happens for me oftentimes while I'm driving. I have sunglasses on, and as we're driving along, I notice a sunset or some landscape, something that I view, and it looks amazing. And I'll comment to my wife and say, wow, look at that sunset. And then I'll take my glasses off and the view changes. It doesn't look the same way that it did with my glasses on. And for a time, I had kind of forgot that I was looking through the lens of the sunglasses. And so I thought what I was seeing was reality, was the way that the world was. And yet, what was really happening is my view or my experience was being filtered through that lens or through that paradigm. So there are two basic paradigms that exist and through which we see the world. One is a paradigm of scarcity, the other is a paradigm of abundance. And then that filters our whole experience. So scarcity is focused on lack, that there's never enough time, never enough money, I'm not good enough, I'm not tall enough, smart enough, whatever that is. It's all about lack, it's about competition and win-lose, it's based on the emotion of fear. And then the paradigm of abundance is based on the emotion of love. And it's a belief that there's more than enough of anything and everything that we need and want in this world. It's about cooperation and creation and win-win. And so which world do we really live in? Do we live in a world of scarcity or do we live in a world of abundance? Because we can look around and find examples of both. And what happens is when we create our mindset, we forget that we're looking at the world through this lens. What we see just becomes our reality. Now, there was a guy by the name of George Stratton that in the 1800s, he developed some goggles that when he put them on, it turned everything upside down. And he wore those goggles for about 7 days straight, and then an amazing thing happened. His brain flipped everything right side up again. Our brains are pretty powerful, and it's able to take anything that we look at and make it appear right. So it can take something and flip it 180 degrees. So what if the world in which we are living is actually 180 degrees different than what we think? So we live in a world where there's lots of fear. We live in a world where there's failure, there's lack, there's scarcity, where there's not enough money, there's not enough time. What if the opposite was true? That there's more than enough money, that there's no such thing as failure, that we can do and accomplish anything in our life that we want to do and accomplish. What would that world be like if you could live in that world? Well, I'm here to tell you that we get to live in the world of our choice. So the question is, if we really can choose, who would choose to live in a world of scarcity? I don't think any of us would. But sometimes because of that lens that we're looking through that filters our experience, we won't even allow ourselves to consider that life could be different than anything that we see or experience. And that filter can be pretty strong. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and then I'm going to give you a tool or a technique that you can use to help you begin to shift or to change your paradigm and begin to possibly see the world differently than you've ever seen it before. If I asked you to draw a cup or a glass, how would you draw it? I'm going to draw one for you, and then you tell me if that's how you would draw it. And I'm not a very good drawer, but we'll give it a shot. So does that look like a common or typical glass? So what if I said, okay, now get creative. Make that glass a little unique. Now I might do something like, putting designs, down it. Maybe, I could put a handle on it. But do you notice anything about this cup? Or this glass? What it is that I'm looking at it through one perspective or one paradigm. Because most of the people, when they draw a glass, or if you had them draw any common object, it's looking at the glass from one point of view. Because I could also draw this glass like this, right? So from the top looking down. So a top view, that's what the glass would look like. Or I could draw it something like that, with it laying on its side, but it's still from this perspective. In life, we get conditioned to see things kind of one way, one dimensional, and we don't even consider that there are other ways of looking at it. Now, is there a problem with this? If we were to go back to the days of Copernicus, and at that time, the people believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, and the sun and all of the planets revolved around the Earth. And at that time, they were attempting to develop an accurate and working calendar, but they continued to be unsuccessful in doing that. And they were using the stars and the planets to create the calendar for the seasons and the times of year. They could not ever get the correct answer because their paradigm, their perspective was incorrect. Everything that they were doing, they were basing it upon the belief that the Earth was the center of the universe. It wasn't until they realized and learned that the sun was the center of the universe and that the Earth and all of the planets revolved around the sun that they were able to come up with a working calendar. So in our life, when we are facing challenges, when we are struggling with fear or depression or anxiety, maybe what we need to do is take off the lens or the paradigm that we're seeing the situation through and put on a different lens, a different paradigm. Look at, am I seeing this situation or this problem through that lens of scarcity? So if I'm in a negative, fear-based place, sad, lonely, I can know that I am seeing the world through that paradigm of scarcity. Because you can take almost any situation and you can find what's wrong with that situation, or you can find what's right with that situation. So here's a tool and something that you can practice and do it right now, and then you can use it at other times in your life. So if you want to pause this video and just take a minute and write about a real negative or scary situation that is occurring right now in your life or that you went through in the past. So take a minute and write about that scary, sad, negative experience or situation. Then, after you've done that, now come back. And now what I would like you to do is to take that same situation, but I want you to look at it from a different perspective. I want you to see if you can find some value or benefit or positive things that could or did come from that situation. If you will change your paradigm, if you will allow yourself to think out of the box, to look at it from a different perspective, I can guarantee you that you can find different meaning and attach it to that event. Here's just a simple example. So let's say that you own a company and things get real tight financially. That could be a real scary thing and a negative thing. Or you could look at it as an opportunity, because here's a chance for us to look at our business and our operation and what's working and what is not working. And oftentimes businesses who face situations like that, in those difficult times, they're able to identify new processes or new ways of bringing in income or cutting costs that actually benefit them. And as they get through that difficult time, that negative place actually turns out to be a benefit to them and helps them in a positive way moving forward. So one other thing I would like you to do, so you've wrote about the situation from a negative perspective, now you've written it from a positive perspective. I'd like you to stop the video and take a few more minutes and write about that experience or situation from a totally different perspective. So don't go to the negative place that you were at before or the positive, but I want you now to find a third perspective. This you may find even more difficult to you because we are conditioned to not even question our paradigm or perspective. We just accept it, that that's the way that it is. And so we need to begin to train our brain to begin to look at things differently. So take a minute and see if you can come up with a third paradigm or a third perspective. So hopefully you found that experience helpful to you. And what I would encourage you to do moving forward is anytime you find yourself facing a negative, a difficult, a scary situation, to step back, take off that scarcity lens, get out of that scarcity paradigm, put on the lens of abundance, look at it through those glasses and see if you can't change your whole situation from one of a negative to a positive, from scarcity to abundance. Just doing that one simple. Sometimes it's difficult to do it, but it's actually a simple process. But the more we practice it, the better our brain will get at looking at things from a positive point of view instead of the negative point of view. There's a few other things that you can do to help with this, and that is just to expand your environment. Look at what you're doing with your time. Are you always doing the same things, hanging around the same people, reading the same kinds of books, watching the same kinds of movies? We get comfortable with where we're at in our life, and sometimes that comfort zone keeps us from experiencing the joy and happiness that we could have in life. So get out of your comfort zone, expand your horizons, be willing to consider beliefs that are different from your own, begin to question what you see and what you're experiencing, take off those lenses, put on a new lens, and begin to see the world in a different way. And see if in doing so, you can increase your own level of joy, happiness, and success in your life. I hope you liked today's video and found it helpful. If you did, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you again tomorrow.